Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the January regular meeting for Rio Nuevo. Brandy has an illness in her family, so Huna has big shoes to fill today. So let's see if you can pull off the flag.
All right. I found a Tucson one.
That works. Corky, you want to lead the pledge?
Sure. Yeah. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the
United States
of America,
And to
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for
which
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and
with
liberty
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Tim, you're going to call the roll in Brandy's absence. Thank you.
Yes, happy to.
And you can drop the flag, Huna.
Thank you.
Corky Poster,
I'm here.
Richard Osaran,
Here.
Shay Jimenez,
Here.
Tanya Villacana,
Present.
Edmund Marquez,
Here.
Chris Sheaf.
Here.
I haven't seen us. Did Janny Cox join us yet?
Haven't
yet.
seen her
Not
log
yet.
in, and Mike Levine is excused. So
All right. And then Fletcher McCusker.
I'm here.
We have a quorum, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, sir. You have the minutes from the last meeting. There are actual transcription of the December meeting. Unless you have a change, I would just need a motion to approve.
So move, Tanya.
Second.
You get that, Tom? Who seconded that?
Marquez.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. You'll see some of our partners online here today. The plan for today is to continue to update our projects. We take off. Somebody needs to mute Mr. Sheaf. Will you mute your Sheaf? You mute, please, if you're going to be on your phone. We ticked off about 5 of our projects. The study session 2 weeks ago, we're going to get updates today. We have a couple that are going to go in February. The OB Hotel group is asked to do their update next month. But I think we'll be pretty close to having a public update on everything that's in progress. So Dan, I want to, when you bring up your list, let's go through the projects and make sure we've caught everybody. So
Okay.
with that, I'll turn it over to Dan for the financial update.
Okay, so remember, this is as of December 31st. We had about $11.7 million on hand at the end of December. About 700,000 of that is reserved for our debt service payment, leaving about $11 million available at the end of December. We did a check run later than usual. We got it early part of January, so that was about $250,000 of our monthly overhead in that check run. So I subtracted that out. And then I added the $350,000 of estimated, we'll use the word profit, times 12 months of 4.2 million, coming up with cash available for the next year of about 15 million. We've got about $11.8 million remaining on commitments, and we'll go down that list on a little bit later. $1 million of that is probably outside of a year, so that leaves about $10.8 million. That'll use up some of that nearly $15 million. We received our November TIF revenue. And
so Dan,
yes,
go back. We've talked about this hockey reserve.
yep.
And I think check in with the board, but I think we had authorized moving that into the infrastructure account for the wireless or.
Well, I'm working with Phil Swaim on this right now, as a matter of fact, to come up with just a really good list of what we're going to do to really authorize us to move that fund. So I'm supposed to get with him in the next week or two to finalize that, and then we'll get that money moved out of the account into our operating funds.
Okay, thank you.
As I was saying, just over $1.7 million November TIF. December's usually a little bit lower because of our baseline is so big in December based on, holiday sales and all that good stuff, Christmas parties. So we'll see what December brings, but we're having a pretty good first 5 months of this fiscal year. Again, our budget for TIF revenue is $1.4 million per month. We have had a good run on cash this month. It looks like we're going to be funding close to $1.5 million of our projects in January. We'll do another check run later this week, but I'm expecting it somewhere close to that. So we are now funding projects at a pretty good clip. So you see the list of the projects there.
Let's take through those and make sure we have either had an update or having one today or having one scheduled, so that we get the advantage of being up to speed on everything. So I think the first 4 or 5 are pretty standard. Janny's given us an update recently on the Presidio. We heard from Crystal on the Treasury.
Yep, and by the way, they just asked for that we'll be paying that $357 in January. So, or $352, excuse me.
Rocco's, we haven't heard directly from Rocco's. Maybe we should schedule him in February.
Just paid them pretty much most of their remaining amount.
Yeah, indeed, they're open. I don't feel the need. I mean, they're doing really well. They're packed all the time. Just anybody want to hear from Rocco, or just go get a pizza, I guess.
I was there on Thursday for lunch, and it was packed. It was beautiful. The bathrooms are amazing. It was the food and the service that you expect. It was just phenomenal. So very excited to, see them continue to do well.
All right, we're going to hear from Grant today. Cordova, Dan, are we pretty much through with those guys?
Well, we sold them $100,000, and the last I talked to Brandy, she was saying that should be coming to fruition here sometime soon.
And Congress Street block, the Nationals open. We're waiting to see what's happening with Blue Front. Maybe I'll get Patricia and Ron or Marcel in for an update. Trading Post we got last meeting. Playground Hub, they're supposed to open here in a few days. I don't see any need to bring them back. Fox Theater, probably a good time for an update. I think they want to wait until February. Empire Pizzas today, Bascaria. They're good. Miss Saigon. Bata, we talked about doing a Bata update. I think we had an update from Fenton, but it was on the Trading Post, right?
Right.
Yeah, and we got some updates via email and exec on Bata, but nothing major to report.
Yeah, I was there for dinner too. It's a birthday month, so I'll explain
You're
that.
eating out a lot there, lady. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
I
food to
am.
do that.
It's like I have to patronize our places, and why not for my birthday when someone says, "Where
true.
would you like to go?" It's phenomenal about that. I have to admit, I was super impressed.
We should probably get progressive updates on the Roger. That's a big commitment. And I haven't heard much of anything since we made that commitment.
On which one?
The Roger. That's that new entertainment venue.
That's 123 South Stone, right?
Yeah, Chris is jumping ahead a little bit. It's about two-thirds of the way down.
Yeah.
Okay, so Herbert's, Tim, I think we've going back and forth on the agreement. Did we get those done?
We got the last red lines. I forwarded them to Mr. Sheaf since he's been running point on that deal. we're very close to finalizing those EBAs, and then they'll be submitting draw notices and construction lien waivers. So I expect that they'll be submitting draw requests later this month or early next, once the documents are finalized and signed.
There's some confusion at Copal. They held off on the patio, which we authorized. I've suggested they might want to come back. I've not heard back from them. I'll follow up with them.
Do you want me to take them off the list or leave them on there?
Well, it's committed.
Yeah, leave them on
and
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
leave
they,
them on. They're
I
gonna come
think they
back.
deferred it.
Okay.
Leave them on, Tanya. Tanya, you
Yes,
said leave them on.
please. Yeah, because we gave them a
It's-
year. So let's hope that we can see some progress before we make that commitment to one way or the other.
All right, Zeke's is pretty close to opening. I understand. Looks like they're starting to draw.
Yep, and they've got some more coming up as well.
Vertigo Wine is in progress. Gibson's we're going to hear from today. The Roger, that's I got that on the list, Chris, to update. Mercado Annex, is that the same as?
Yeah, that's a refinancing and that's being worked on hot and heavy right now by Mark Collins to try and be ready because they've got a deadline to get their financing funded before the end of the month.
Thunder Bacon
Very-
we approved, and then we heard from Lindy. He's kind of distracted. I guess he's buying the former Lindy's back.
Yeah.
So we'll get him back in here. UPS is done. Have they not drawn anything yet?
No, I don't believe they've drawn anything yet.
We're still
I thought that
finalizing
was on a
the,
quick timeline. I'm surprised it's not done.
so a couple things on that matter, if I may, Mr. Chairman. One, I'm working with Scott, the principal of the UPS store. The remodel is going to start in April and it will be done in April. I asked him for some backup lease documents so that I can verify there's no tenant improvements that weren't disclosed to the board. And then once I get that, then I can finalize the EBA and get it over to Scott for signature and execs for signature.
Okay, thank you. Oban, I've not heard from them recently. I'll put them on the come back and see us list.
When's the expiration on Oban? 'Cause that's super old.
It got extended. It's towards the end of this year and they were planning on doing the remodel this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be good to them to do that in public. We're here about 200 East Congress or Crescent today with Nick. Children's Museum, probably good for an update there, huh? So Carrillo House, that's in construction.
Yeah, I
heard-
spoke to Michael Becker about that today, and they're getting some permits, and he said that thing ought to be completed by the end of the year. Was what he told me today. So stay tuned.
All right, I've heard nothing back from the city on their skate park.
I can give an update
on.
on that, Mr. Chairman, if you want.
Go
real
ahead.
quick. So I'm working with Chris Avery over at the city of Tucson on the intergovernment agreement, as well as if it's necessary, a separate EBA. I've sent drafts of both those documents to him. The city is supposed to have a meeting on this in early February, and after which he will get back to me on those documents, and hopefully we'll be in a position to finalize. As the board may recall, Rio Nuevo's $200,000 commitment is last dollars in on that project because we wanted to make sure that they had raised sufficient funds to actually move forward with it. So that's where that stands.
Yeah, last I heard, they had not completed their fundraising, so I'll circle back with the city.
When does that expire?
It's a good question.
It doesn't technically have an expiration date. Until the
Put
EBA
about
is
a
signed.
2-year horizon on it.
Say again, Mr.
I
Sheep.
thought it was 2 years.
I think that's right.
I mean, that's just my memory. I could be dead wrong, Tim, but
Check on the deadline, Tim. I'll circle back with the city Parks and Rec.
Will do.
May I make a suggestion, Fletcher, with regard to this topic of when these things come due? If we could just add it to each of the respective on this list itself, on the spreadsheet, so that we're not going back to the minutes, or maybe put a little bit of a indicator. Okay, deadline 12 months. Deadline this date. They have
Wow,
until this date.
that is so smart.
It's
Dan,
smart. Dan hates you right now, but it's really smart.
Dan, you following that?
Yes, I am. I'll do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just so helpful.
It is.
You earned your paycheck for today.
Awesome.
we'll double
Can't
your
wait to
pay.
receive it.
Yes.
Right. It's a 00 instead of just
Yeah.
one.
It's
Understood.
5 zeros. Okay, so we've either seen them or going to see them. I'm going to circle back with the Bata Bar, the Roger, Copal, Oban, the Children's Museum, and the Fox. And Obi's already committed to February.
Yeah, we just check, we're cutting a check here next couple of days for maybe 110,000 or so for the Fox for their quarterly fundraising efforts. So that's slowly.
So just a quick note there, they are in review. They intend to tear down the properties around the corner there, and they some of them have historical status, so they're dealing with the city on that process.
So the city's going to green light the tear down of that whole corner, or they're going to keep part of it up?
No, well, we'll see what the city does. The request is to demolish everything south of the bagel store. So that would be all new construction tied into the existing Fox Theater.
No, north of the bagel store.
Nice.
I'm sorry, yeah, north of the bagel store.
Fletcher, you may want to ask Scott if he wants to talk about the Moxie yet.
That's a good idea. Might be good to include the Corbett in that because I think their plans have changed. Any questions for Dan? Any comments on the pended projects?
Did I
just
miss
have
it?
one.
I don't see the bungalows.
We're going to get that today. There's and Dan, there's not a financial commitment, is there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, that's
No,
right. Property.
Yeah, we gave him the property, but no money.
I had a question for Dan. This is Corky. We're running about 20% over our monthly budget projection. Is there some time in the future when we might adjust that budget number, or are we?
Oh, we certainly can. We, the budget we submit to the state and everything has got this $1.4 million on it. We typically adjust that annually. Let's wait and see what happens in December and see where things stand. And if we want to do this internally, we can.
Okay, I was really not worried about the state. I was just thinking for our own internal planning. If we're running 20% consistently ahead of our budget, we might want to think about that.
Courtney, just to add, you'll hear this ad infinitum from me. We do not have any kind of a reserve. We would not have gotten through the crisis with COVID had we not had the loan on the convention center and drew all the reserves out of that to survive through that period. So I've been very pushing Dan not to expand our expenditure horizon too much unless we decide to set a good reserve aside in case some black swan event comes along and does something to us again. So
I agree, Chris.
that's part
I
of the
agree, Chris.
reason that this is where it is.
I agree, Chris, but we can create a reserve category in our budget to accomplish that. It seems,
Oh yeah, if we're willing to do
seems like
that,
our
that's the
income ought to
point.
be realistic instead of falsely conservative. That's all. We can create a reserve account and put, budget for that. That makes a lot of sense, but it ought to be a conscious decision.
No, I absolutely agree with that strategy. We
So
ought
we're
to
just a couple
reserve.
months away from launching. We're a June 30 year, so
Yeah.
typically around March, April, we start to see Dan's draft budget, Dan, I think it'd be prudent to start a reserve line in there and we'll help you fill that out. Okay, I think we're ready to roll. So, Nick, you guys are up first. I think Huna, you've got their slides. You know, we've known the guys at Highwire for a long time. They've really expanded beyond their original intent. They pretty much control that whole block. Now I'll let them update you on what they're doing, but they have bought out the Gibson's market. They subleased the Crescent space from us, and they've done a remarkable job of remodeling the old drawing studio and you know, what started out as a distillery is now a very established restaurant. So you probably got some plans maybe I don't know about, Nick. So run us through what you guys are up to.
No, so say it's going to be the last one, and then John and I get ourselves into something else. So, the current one. So, just an update. Highwire is doing what Highwire does. So far, January skewing above last year, which is exciting. 2024 saw, for the first time for us, some months where we didn't do better than the previous year. So we're off to a good start. Fletcher, thank you for hyping up the grand. So our event center that we completed this past summer, things that have been booking are actually starting to happen. So it's exciting to see it come to life. Sold out show for Jazz Brunch and a bunch of other stuff coming up. Pretty much March and April are booked out. And that leaves us with the Gibson and Crescent Smoke Shop property that we're going to be rebranding as Gibson Food Hall and Market. And Huna, could you click it over to the next one? Thank you. So the new concept, it'll be a food hall featuring local restaurateurs. So that's kind of a fancy name, food court, where the former deli was, be divided into four sections, 4 stalls, which will be leased out to local chefs, cooks, fast casual dining, indoor and outdoor seating. There will remain a market that's stocked with all the essential grocery items, along with some local specialty products. We're already working on local vendors. They can have kiosks and stuff set up throughout the store. The former smoke shop area is going to be kind of like our bodega, which will have popular grab and go items to get in and out real quick. And then below that, there will be a speakeasy style bar in the basement. And that's the former Crescent Smoke Shop building. And if you want to just slowly but quickly, yeah, go through the next few. That's the layout. That's what we're working with. And then these are some renderings from the architect of what the new space will look very much like. I'm gonna, from here, pass it over to Mr. John.
Hi guys, how you doing? So we're looking at kind of a new.
Excuse me, could you introduce yourself, please, first?
Oh, sorry. I'm John. I'm Nick's business partner.
John, your last name?
Hardin, Hardin.
Thank you.
No problem. So we're taking the market to kind of a new direction, making sure that we're still keeping the market in there so that people can come do their shopping that they need. But in order to keep the business viable, we have to add some things and do some changes, i.e. bringing in the different food vendors and bringing in the local stuff. Yeah, right now they're breaking through the wall between the two. So there's a big hole over there, and they've opened up the floor to put in the new stairway and the lift. The plumbers are supposed to be in next week to start doing what they do.
So it's noisy and dusty, just
Yeah.
about 50 feet that way from us. It's a war zone, but it's exciting. And then, Una, we can go to the next one and we'll go over, today we're just gonna go over some numbers with you guys.
Yeah, we're hoping to increase our taxable revenue that is produced out of the market. Currently, with the market, it averages somewhere around about $6,000 to $7,000 in taxes every month. You know, about $72,000 a year. We're hoping to exceed those from direct taxable income and from indirect taxable income. And what we mean by the indirect is the different businesses that we will lease space out to are also going to be selling products that are taxable.
So you add those two numbers together as you've done for taxable revenue, is that correct?
Correct, yeah, down there at the bottom, we have the totals and
Right.
added them together. And so we're definitely going to see an increase in taxable revenue.
Okay.
Pretty much got our quotes together. We're looking between the two buildings at somewhere between 1.3, 1.5. We've already presented on the smoke shop part. We kind of got that situated. So for the Gibson building, we'd be looking at about $1 million. Kind of conservative, but that's kind of where we're at. And so moving forward, we would ask if Rio Nuevo would be willing to provide 50% of it.
So is this concept, just may I ask a couple quick questions just to get my mind around? Thank you. So is this concept kind of similar to American Eats with a retail component?
Sure. Yes, yeah, it is very much. American Eco, yeah, is what I would consider a food hall where you have the different, independent with indoor seating. Yeah, and so it's a very popular concept that's picking up all around the world.
And this is going to allow us to keep the market actually open when we decided to take over the market and purchase it from the previous owners. Unfortunately, it was not making it. It was on a trajectory to have to close. So we want to be able to provide that market to downtown. But the only way we can do that is by adding in additional revenue streams inside of the facility.
Excellent. And is there retail as well? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part though.
Yes, there will still be retail. There will still be the market in there as it is or as it has been. The difference is going to be instead of having 10 different types of peanut butter, there's going to be 2 different types of peanut butter. We're going to have a lot of back stock in our warehouse versus on the floor.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And what happens to the patio? Are you improving that?
No, yeah, it's gonna get improved. There's plans to kind of upgrade that. What's really cool about this now, Highwire's liquor license extends over all the property, the Gibson property, which is probably more than half the block. So it'll be a space where you have bar, nightlife, kind of restaurant, shopping, event center, and people can transverse throughout the whole property freely now. There's no more barriers or invisible, kind of barriers with liquor license. So the patio will be activated. You can come, grab your lunch, sit out there. So we're excited. And that's kind of how it was when the market first opened. The courtyard was open, it was being used as dining. And so we want to get back to that.
This is Corky. Do you have any idea what percentage of your retail component that market is taxable retail as opposed to non-tax food items?
The majority of the retail in there is non-tax.
Okay, thanks.
And that's majority of the retail in there is non-tax. And that would be why they were paying so little in sales tax before.
Got it. Thank you.
But we're planning to increase our taxable revenue by offering the food, the alcohol, the grab and go food that is taxable.
Is there any retail alcohol then?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be taxable, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Retail alcohol would be taxable. Grab and go prepared food would be taxable.
Okay, thank you.
Remind us of our economics with you. We understand the Crescent deal, but I think we've committed to your other projects, Nick. Yes.
Yeah, you guys committed to us for $500,000 for the Grand. That was our first project with you guys.
And Dan, have they drawn that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I believe that's all completed.
Okay. And you kind of implied, Nick, you might be revisiting us again for some additional assistance.
Yeah, so you guys have committed, I think, 150 something on the smoke shop portion of this project. So
Right.
to complete out the gifts and the larger portion of it, we're looking at roughly a $1 million build out. So if possible, we would ask for 50% of that from you guys if that's doable.
And for clarity, on the
Yes.
agenda, this is update and discussion only, so you'll have to come back in the.
Right, and that's fine. We were in the last one with the kind of construction updates. We figured we'd offer just some more to you guys this time.
Can you speak to the rest of the block? Are you negotiating for additional space? Is that public? Is that not public? I know you have expansion plans, but maybe you can't talk about.
I mean, I guess the best we could say is we had a discussion with the landlords where currently the iguana is, and they did make mention of when and if that would become available. It was something they would like to offer.
Thanks. You guys have done everything you told us you're going to do in spades. I'm really excited about the grant. I think it brings a nice 250-seat venue to downtown. Your patrons are very flattering about your restaurant. The food service for the jazz brunch was really good. So congratulations.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Fletcher.
Thank you.
Any questions for Nick, John?
So one last question, Nick. I noticed that you guys haven't drawn down on your 153.5. Is that are you trying to do it all in one big swoop or something? along those lines?
Construction, so just started, so we're getting basically, we front it, or the way I understand, we front it, and then we get inputs together for Brandy, and I try to do them in bigger chunks just for simplicity, so we don't have a bunch of little draws that confuse us at the end.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay, Grant, you're up next. Remind Tom your name so we get it in the transcription. You're muted, Grant.
Of course. My name is Grant Kruger. I'm the owner of Union Hospitality Group. We're a Union Public House, Reforma, Modern Mexican, Mezcal and Tequila, Proof Artisanal Pizza and Pasta, and the Maverick, King of Clubs on the east side. And we represent the Friedman Block. And so the Friedman Block, let me try to share my screen here with you guys because I didn't send this file to Huna over here.
Yeah, you're set up.
Okay. Let me see right now if this will allow it. Can you see my screen right now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, sorry about that. Got PowerPoint up here. I apologize. As the sharing is
Right
just
at the bottom, you should just click on share screen.
Yeah,
Just
share screen,
pull
I
up
see it.
whatever's on your computer.
Yep. And I'm there. Let's see, share PowerPoint. It's the system preferences issue. Okay, I'll go without it for the moment in the issue of
Hang on, it's really easy. Click on that green button that says share.
Yes, sir.
What that's going to do is pull up your desktop. Then you're going to have to go to your PowerPoint. Huna, you gave him host, right?
Yeah, you're set up.
Grant, if it's easier, you can forward it to me and I can share it off my screen.
Done. I'll do that right now and I'll talk while I'm doing it. I apologize again on this one over here, guys, for this slowing you guys up over here. Tim, I'm going to email you this one right now as we speak so that it gets to you. It's going to go to your Farhang and Medcoff email.
Just send it to, we've misjudged your millennialness.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Truly.
my Farhang and Metcalf account works, Grant.
Great. It is sent right now. So I'll start talking while Tim digs this one up and it makes its way over here. We're the Friedman Block, right? Which is located at Broadway and Plummer, basically the northeast corner of Broadway and Plummer. It's 48,000 square feet of building with between 37 and 57 total parking spots. So it's kind of a problem, right? Up front, like it's probably the most challenged of all of the projects on the Sunshine Mile. Randy Dorman might take exception to that, but this one certainly needs a little bit of help and love over here. So the initial plan was to partner with Rep and McLean Construction. They, of course, successfully implemented the Solot Plaza, and we were hoping even for some economies of scale of perhaps even constructing with the both of them together, quite frankly. And of course, you know, like all good intentions here, that didn't work out. And I'm sitting in front of you guys 2 years later to explain to you on the journey of where we've been. And for a couple of you guys, for Fletcher and Edmund, I apologize. It'll be a bit of a review. And for some of you new board members, this might be some newer information for you as well too. Ultimately, the first look without the slide is that there is a apartment complex located north of the Friedman block called Council House. It's got 152 parking spaces. It's got 150 what were designed to be market rent apartments, but they're currently Section 42 low income senior housing. This particular project is zoned and it needs 0.75 of a parking space for every apartment. So they need about 113 parking spaces. They've got 152. We, through Chris Ambrosio, my attorney, and eventually attorney Medcoff as well too, who helped out with this particular challenge, have reached out to the owners of Council House and initially got a chilly but not completely unreceptive response from him. And after meeting with his managers and flying him out here and having dinner with him, I got him to agree that he had a glut of extra parking. His manager agreed he had a glut of extra parking. Like, we even went so far with Rep and McLean to design a drawing that had his spaces, our shared spaces, and the Friedman spaces. And I thought in the first 6 months, like, we'd be home free with this one. It is clearly, even today, the absolute best solution for this particular project. With the Broadway widening, eating the parking lot of those buildings, but only leaving parking spaces in the back, it's not only severely underparked, but those particular spaces in the back aren't really customer-friendly, visible spaces. This is where the dumpsters went and where the employees went to smoke cigarettes and things of this nature. On top of it, that alleyway, which is not a real pal, is actually pocked with 9 big utility posts that would also need to be moved and buried at about $200,000 a piece. And so it's a pretty challenging back. I've got a drawing on the slides if they can pop them up at some
Tim,
point.
do you have the slides yet?
I haven't hit my inbox yet. Still waiting.
I apologize. I'll just keep moving over here on this one. It is in my sent items for you. But
How big a file was it, Grant? It might be getting stuck.
Probably 20
yeah,
minutes.
19 megs.
Yeah.
I'll go without it. And again, I apologize tremendously because I really do have some nice slides here for this, but I think we can.
So I literally can teach you how to do this. So take your scroller to the bottom below our pictures, and you'll see
share screen on
audio,
green.
video, participants, chat, raise hand, and a green button with the arrow that says share. You see that?
I certainly do.
All right, click on that share button, and that's going to bring up your desktop.
And so there we go. It's asking for access. Give me 1 sec here. So sorry, Fletcher, but I'm going to zoom in.
I get $600 an hour as a tech consultant.
See that? Okay, so let me try this one again and see if you guys can share my screen now. And
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
look at that. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Thank you, Fletcher. Okay, so we are looking at the Friedman block over here. The most noted building is 2221 East Broadway. This particular building, and actually let me get rid of this place screen. It'll take us right over here. This particular building is most noted because you can drive underneath it. And essentially there's a parking lot right now, but my goal would be to create an atrium like outdoor patio over here and build a live music, new American concept, similar in form to what we have in Union Public House, but a little more upscale. I think that the two-storiness of this particular building would lend itself well to encapsulate live music. Attorney Medcoff and a few others over there in Huna know very well of the challenges that I've had with live outdoor music over here in St. Philip's Plaza and criminal charges and all the fun stuff. But I think it would be really, really awesome. We have some other tenants that are still potentially interested in this one as well too. Most certainly LaRua's, right? They of course have had a long history with you guys and had negotiated for this corner space that says GG's on it over there, as the Rep and McLean drawing said, but they're still very interested in potentially popping into that space. That would give us 2 full service restaurants and then a number of other locations over here. Unfortunately, the electric bike store that I had planned on the top left side at Pedigo Bikes has actually gone out of business in this 2 years. And one of the tea concepts, Scented Leaf, moved to the Solot Plaza because they beat me, of course, to the punch. But nonetheless, the idea would be to reduce 18 or 19 pretty rough buildings into about 13 nice ones. 2 full service restaurants, probably 3 quick service restaurants, and a smattering of other retail, of course, with a focus to generate sales tax revenue in the same way that everybody would in Rio Nuevo. There are 2 non-contributing buildings to this project, and those are at 2305 and 2307 East Broadway. Those 2 buildings, in theory, could come down. Normally, I wouldn't want to remove any buildings, like in traditional real estate development. As much real estate as we could have, the better. But this particularly challenging project is so underparked and so overbuilding that just about anything helps in that calculation. So those 2 could go without any real fanfare. Now, when you get into
Do you have that slide? Is there a slide that shows the parcel?
yes, let's see if I can go back over here on this one as well. So
We're not
this
seeing, we're not seeing the screens that I think you're switching to. We're on the
Ah.
Friedman
oh
yoga.
goodness.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
we went through a lot of pain to see one slide.
I'm so sorry. Like this
Like,
slide
you
thing is
shared the
killing me.
JPEG, not the presentation.
Got it.
Sorry.
I'm seeing it on my PowerPoint and it's not sharing with you guys.
You have
Sounded
to start,
good.
you've got to start it all over again. You got to share, then pull it up.
Yep.
Just don't
Got
start the presentation.
There it is. No.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So can you see this building right now? I apologize, where it says GG's.
Yes.
And if I change the screen now, all we're getting is the JPEG. I see
Yeah.
the problem. It's not giving me the PowerPoint. So you're still seeing the GG's one right now?
Not
No.
anymore.
Friedman
Just-
yoga.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So that was the first one over here. Now, if I bring up PowerPoint, can you see this
There you
plan
go.
with Council House?
There you go.
Perfect. So ultimately, let me back up 1 or 2 slides over here then. This is what I was talking about with 2305 and 2307. Can you guys see that now?
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
those
okay.
are the 2 non-contributing buildings. And so ultimately, those 2 have always been able to come down. And again, it wasn't my desire to necessarily take buildings down, but in Redmond McLean's idea and vision for it, they wanted to create a bunch of north-south access for customers as well too. And we certainly have the trouble that the Solot Plaza had as well too, where you've got buildings that were designed to be accessed from the south to the north, and now we're converting them from the north to the south. And how we deal with that ugly back end of them really becomes a challenge. I joked to Edmund and Fletcher that all buildings sort of have, restaurants kind of have a rear end to them in some capacity, right? You need a spot to put the trash and the recycling and the grease dumpsters and all the ugly parts. And it's going to be an interesting challenge to open up that back end, not just because of the limited parking spaces, but because that's where most likely, that we're going to go through a couple scenarios over here in a minute, the parking would be. The idea, though, is that by creating that opening, we could create some pocket patios and have north to south access. So at a minimum, we need 152 parking spaces, even with those buildings, removed. And so we've got 57 max, and that's like really pushing the envelope, talking about bearing all those utilities. We're essentially 100 parking spaces short for this particular space for any degree of legality or certificate of occupancy. So we just started to run through some exercises and some options. And Corky was part of that discussion, and Edmund and Fletcher. And so ultimately our original plan was council house apartments, right? The idea that these guys would open up that parking and share with us. They needed, as you can see, 113 parking spaces. They've got 152 they could potentially share with us. That would be a tremendous win. And I think still to this day, the best solution for this particular project. We also went through an exercise with the M. Lee Star Learning Center. That's the school, the Teenage Parent High School. And there could be a potential to either lease or to purchase parking spaces from the M. Lee Star. And you can see they've got 63 parking spaces over here. Bryant Nodine offered to rent us up to 42 spaces. However, those 42 would only be rented to us in the evenings, like post 5 p.m. when the school was done with their regular activities. So the 42 doesn't even really count like 42. It actually counts probably something less. we haven't got through the IPP plan with the city of Tucson yet without even being legal, but let's say it's worth 25 or 30 spaces or something to them would probably be a fair assumption. And that option exists no matter what to supplement the parking on the 100 short we have. We also went through an option of potentially removing all the east buildings. Now, I recognize that that's a big challenge over here, and there's a ton of historic restrictions on that. But we hired Jennifer Levstick, right, as a historical consultant to help us out. We met with Susan Lawson from SHPO as well, too, to talk about these particular options. And if you notice, even with the eastern buildings completely removed, we're still short parking spaces. This option would provide 106 total spaces out of the 119 that we need. This wouldn't even be legal still if we weren't able to get at least a dozen credited spaces from the school in some capacity. And most recently, over this last year, I've had discussions with Pat DeConcini. We contracted Lazarus and Sylvan, Carrie, of course, is well known to probably everybody here on this particular call. And Rep and McLean and I have come up with a potential game plan to build parking on the DeConcini lot. There's the Friedman block, the Continental building, right, owned by Helene Levy and Jill Hansen. And then there's Pat DeConcini's lot, and then there's Tucson Boulevard. And on Pat's lot, according to Rep and McLean, who did this drawing a couple of months ago, you can see here, they could get legally up to a 3-story parking garage. This would provide 201 parking spaces. Those spaces would be on top of the additional 30 to 50 that we might get behind the building. And of course, whatever additional spaces that we could get from the school. And suddenly we might be cooking. Now you're talking about having enough parking spaces and not having to demo any or all of the historic buildings, which would make everybody on this call probably feel a lot more comfortable and happy. The problems with this plan are the following. One, it's still half a block walk, more or less. It's not exactly right next door to the Friedman block. And so there'd be some serious challenges with that one to begin with. Two, the economic value of a corner lot at Tucson and Broadway becoming a 3-story parking garage doesn't seem to me to be the highest and best use of that resource. However, there is no other real option. We either have to acquire some other parcel somewhere to make parking or demo. And of course, as we've talked about before, demoing may provide you some additional parking spaces because you reduce the number of building square feet, which reduces the number of parking spaces that you need as well too. So it's sort of a double mathematical win, but only if you get enough reduction that you actually make a 9x18 or larger parking space. If you only get 16 feet and you don't gain a car, you gained nothing. And so Rep and McLean have gone through a myriad of exercises of addition and subtraction and trying to calculate this out. I've proposed to Carrie one of the ways to solve this problem may be to create a new planned area development in conjunction with the owners of the Continental building and with Pat, and that we would all get an appraisal from the same appraiser. They would contribute their properties to this new grander development, and we would create a potential parking garage. Carrie's gone through some parts of that process, believes it is possible, does not believe it under the current city council that it would be possible to get a pad specifically for the cause of demoing any or all of those buildings, depending on what those votes might be on the council. But ultimately, a 201 parking space garage would provide potential parking options for not just the Friedman block, but for the Solot Plaza located immediately next door. Also, potentially even for, say, employees of Nate Arias' concept, the Stravenue that I think we're going to hear about today as well, too. Maybe even Marcel's employees from the proposed supermarket. Perhaps something along these lines may be a parking garage that we could send almost all of our employees to in some capacity, reducing the load on the very valuable spaces located next to the buildings. The downside is money. Like everybody else over here, we're trying to figure out a way to make this pencil out. Rep and McLean said their back of the BevNap drawings would cost something like this would cost about $30,000 per parking space. So you're looking at a cost of about $6 million to create that parking garage on Broadway. A princely sum indeed. Ultimately, at a cost of refurbishing the 48,000 square foot of building at, let's even call it 40,000 square feet of building with the reductions of the non-contributors at $150 a foot, just to take those to gray shell, we're looking at about $6 million on the investment of the buildings, plus another $6 million on the parking garage. And the downside to that is at that point, you're paying $300 a foot for the property on Broadway, and the market value is not necessarily that. You could just buy a shopping center down the street for less money if there was no Rio Nuevo participation or help. And so ultimately I came to ask and hope that you guys in some future meetings could discuss what your temperature might be on a parking garage, assuming I can bring to the table Pat DiConcini, the Diamond Ventures heirs, and myself on the Friedman block to create a new PAD for this, and what value that might add, not just to the Friedman block, but to the other establishments on the Sunshine Mile as well too. But in conclusion, there's 201 parking spaces that could be made in a 3-story structure. They're $30,000 a spot. Carrie Sylvan's on it right now, working our way through it. Rapid McLean is on this one. Like, I feel like I have the best, most qualified people for this job, but it is an incredibly difficult puzzle to unlock when you're over 100 parking spaces short legally inside of St. Hughes.
Thank you for that, Grant. You can drop your screen. A couple of ideas. One would be a hydraulic lift. I'm sure you've all been to New York City. When they have a surface lot, they put a 4-story hydraulic parking garage on. It's not necessarily attractive, but you could stand it up in a month and vertically park 3 or 4 levels of parking. And of course, some kind of valet solution there might make a difference. I think we'd be interested in Patrick's parcel if it included some retail. And I think when you look at that garage, do something on the ground level, the Broadway frontage, that could include some additional retail. So now there's an income to that garage. And there's income from parking. I think Rio Nuevo wouldn't just look at a giveaway there, but it's $6 a car. There's a lot of revenue in these parking situations too. So I think we'd be very interested in a deeper conversation about the garage.
Yeah, I'd
Mr.
love to
Chairman?
work. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Grant. This is Corky. One of the things that's bugged me about the problem you're having is that if you look at Treat Avenue for the first 3 blocks north of Broadway, that is more than wide enough to accommodate on-street parallel parking on both sides of the street. I think the previous occupant of the Ward 6 Council office probably would very much not be interested in engaging Sam Hughes in the conversation. It's all marked no parking for those of you who don't know that area. Plenty of room for parking, already paved, already soaking up rays of the sun. But I suspect that the new Councilmember Ulick, might be much more receptive to the removal of those no parking signs. I don't think it solves your entire problem, but it's a substantial additional parking, and it's at no cost whatsoever. It's just whatever it takes to take a blowtorch and cut down those no parking signs. So I don't know if you visited that recently, but it might be worth a conversation with the Ward 6 Council office and see if there's any receptivity to that.
I think that's a great idea, Corky. There's no question that all of that area is marked no parking right now and is underutilized. It's a historically tough neighborhood association to crack, right? For sure. But I'm up to the challenge. And I have zero.
But not a single house in those 3 blocks faces onto Treat. They all face onto the east-west streets. So that neighborhood claiming parking that really is on the perimeter of that neighborhood is pretty much a stretch in my mind. Again, I think it's a political question. You're right, Sam Hughes is pretty well outspoken, but the council office, particularly one that's not seeking re-election, might be very interested in pursuing that.
I like it.
What do you think? What do you think about a lift, the hydraulic lift situation, Grant? Have you guys looked into
So I've looked into a number of options with Rep and McLean over here, and they're all very expensive per car, right? Like ultimately, Edmund knows we offered $500,000 in cash for 60 parking spaces to the owner of Council House Apartments, which would have been some of the most expensive parking spaces in the history of Tucson. And these are for ones already built just to share. I do believe that there's an opportunity later in this year for further negotiations with Mr. Greenbaum from Council House, though. It's my understanding and my attorney's understanding that between their IDA bond and this Fannie Mae loan that they have ballooning in December of 25, that there's going to be a refi either way in some capacity. And as such, like one of their hesitations into chipping off a bit of parking for us was the fact that their 2.85% interest rate was going to turn into something called like 8 or worse in today's market, and the refinancing of Council House would have been prohibitively more expensive. But if they're already going there either way this year, there could be an opportunity to have further negotiations. And like Corky said, I think this is a death by 1,000 cuts. I think it's like treat plus the school, plus the parking garage, plus whatever we can chip off the back of those buildings legally if it doesn't really hurt the historic guys. Because some of those bump outs on the back of the Friedman buildings were just cinder block additions clearly added after the fact. I paid Cooper Aerial Photography to give me the aerial photographs of the progression of construction they had in the 50s and 60s. And you could see they weren't all built at the same time. And there was a lot of kind of wonky add-ons as well, too. And I don't think any really contributing historic properties would be hurt from the removal of some of the backs of those buildings, particularly if we could gain that 18 feet and actually turn it into an extra spot or two. And I really think, guys, the answer is all of the above on this one. It's a really challenging project when all the smart minds on this call like still struggle with it, and then like all the architects and all the lawyers and the people that are like, in my opinion at least, the best of the best on this in Tucson are also all like struggling for a way to figure out this problem. And again, it's a problem that anybody would have. This isn't unique to food service. Edmund?
I agree with you. I think it is a kind of an all-in approach. We're obviously dealing with some very rigid barriers in regards to historical perspective. I mean, common sense would tell you it's going to probably take Corky's idea with the street parking, including with, I mean, the school for TUSD next door, with probably mixed in with some of Pat Cancini's, with probably trimming off probably the back ends of those properties. My question is, in regards to the parking restriction, and maybe Corky, you probably know this the best on the call. So obviously you said 45,000 square feet, right? Was it 40, something like that? Like, then you have
48, but you can remove a little bit.
So 48,000 square feet, and obviously that equates to a certain number of parking spots you gotta have. What happens if you don't activate part of the property in lieu of demoing it? Does that change your parking requirement?
Only if it's not in the building permit. It's not usable space. For example, if it's used as storage or something else, then the parking would be calculated based on that other use. In our building code, all different uses have different parking requirements. A barbershop has more than a retail store. It's all, everyone is use-based, not zoning-based. So depending on how you use the square footage, it would change the parking calculation. I am curious, which is why my hand is up, whether you're using the Sunshine Mile overlay or not. Right?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, we're still planning on trying to use the Sunshine Mile overlay. The new PAD idea could possibly change that in some capacity, because we're already going through a tremendous amount of legal and architectural work either way. But at the moment, the plan would still be to use it because there is the advantage of one parking spot for every 300 square feet of customer space, exactly, if the shopping center is less than 50% food service. So I have to be cautious.
The language, the historic language in the Sunshine Mile says that if you can get an opinion from Susan Lawson that the partial demolition that you're proposing to do would not result in the delisting of the property, then you can go ahead and use the Sunshine Mile. The only danger is if you demolish a structure, by definition, that delists the structure, and therefore you cannot use the overlay. That's the question. So we did that, for example, on the no-tell motel project they were doing on North Oracle. We took down some buildings that were listed in the inventory in the National Register, but we got an opinion from SHPO that the loss of those 2 buildings out of 5 did not result in a delisting of the entire property. So partial demolition is possible if you get an opinion from SHPO that it wouldn't delist the property.
Yeah, and
Tim, what
Jennifer,
are,
that's
what are our
no.
deadlines on this project? I know we've given Grant you an extension. Is that to the end of this calendar year?
I believe it's through March of this year, if I'm not mistaken. It's February or March, if I recall. I'll pull it up in while we're chatting.
I thought we had extended it beyond. I thought we had another year. Let's confirm that. If we can't do it right now, we'll get a
Certainly,
note back to
I'm
them.
willing to spend money and to continue this fight on what is really a tremendous historic challenge, pun intended, right? That ultimately, like, anybody in this situation would have these challenges. Like, this isn't unique to the food service that I want to build on this, so long as I keep it under 50% of the property. Anybody on this call would have these troubles with this property. And truly, Carrie Sylvan told me that when we contracted her for this, she knew this one particularly was going to come back to her because it was just so severely challenged with the parking being removed as part of the Broadway widening, but having so much substantial building square footage, almost all of it being historically listed in some capacity. And so it's really like a demo or acquire something else in combination. And we do have, again, the school's been interested, but we can't just buy the school and do something with the school because, as Corky has stated before, even the school's got historic restrictions on it. In fact, the only thing that in the Continental building as well too, which is a pretty cool building, like, also has historic restrictions. Like, the only thing around there that doesn't have historic restrictions is Pat's lot. I talked to Pat again this morning in advance of this call, and while certainly I don't, without actually having all the actual numbers in front of him, he's not for it, but he loves the idea of activating this space. And he even brought up to me this morning, Fletcher, about your idea of, hey, let's get some retail on that parking garage or on that space as well too. Some way to generate sales tax to make it worth Rio Nuevo's investment as well too. And I'm certainly open to exploring that option as well.
Fletcher, is it the way that we wrote our overlay being so black and white with historical? Is there a way to adjust it saying non-contributing back-end pieces of a historical property could be allowed?
Well, there's a little twist of timing and fate in our overlay. When we drafted the overlay, part of the commitment was to protect the historically registered buildings. While we were writing our overlay, hundreds of properties were registered without any knowledge or awareness of the owners, without any conversation with us. It just showed up one day and they got registered. So this problem was created from the historical designation, which if you use the overlay, the building has to be protected. If you don't use the overlay and try to use the underlying zoning, you're probably seriously parking starved. And then you just have to deal with the politics of whether you tear down an existing historical building or not. So clearly the challenge is to do something creative, and we're not going to solve it today, but it'd be interesting, Grant, to look at how many surface spaces could we get on Patrick's lot? How many surface spaces do you get with the building that Helene owns? They have parking to the interior. Maybe you don't get your patio in the donut hole building. Maybe that's used for parking. And if we pick up some street parking, it's clearly going to take some kind of solution. If we're going to spend $6 billion on a garage, we might want to up the ante to the council apartments to acquire some of their spots. So what I want to make sure that we know is that we're not going to run the clock out. And if we have a March deadline, then clearly we have to take up that in a meeting where we have
You know,
an action on.
I suggest we'll find out about that. We're working very, very hard to find a solution. And one of the intriguing things that came up was Greenbaum has this refinancing deadline. We want to make sure that we figure that or accommodate that in our thinking here. Because his motivations may change. Clearly, he's just holding out for a higher price. That doesn't make a lot of sense otherwise. Unless he's planning to sell Council House and he thinks this, creates better value for him. But there's something there. Because you offered him free money.
Yes.
And he's a
with the
businessman
construction bond.
and he would have taken it. So there's something going on that side.
So I'll leave you with this, Grant. We'll double check your deadlines, but if it was easy, anybody could do it.
I know. Look, I'm up for the challenge. Like, I want to fix this and I want to get it done more than anybody here on this call, I assure you. And I apologize that it's taking this long, but it's because this problem is just that complicated. I mean, everything around there is historic. It's the only piece that isn't is Pat's lot right now. And so Pat kind of holds all the cards on this one. And he's busy, running the Prop 414 campaign, but he wasn't too busy to, take my call and still talk about this and make this happen in some capacity. And so like somewhere there's something we could do there. Or again, I still believe there was a carve out in the overlay for some demo of historic properties if it isn't financially feasible. Like if I get punted from this deal tomorrow, if the board decides, you know what, Grant's not the right person for this job. He's just a scumbag and he's not doing it right. The next person walking in my shoes will literally have this exact same problem and come to you a year.
Corky's right. I don't know if we ever made the request, but could we take a partial demo to the historic constituency and said, look, this doesn't work unless we take a couple of buildings out. We can save 14 or none. So I think it's all strategic. I think we've all got to get together after this call and come up with a plan, and we'll just make sure you have enough time to.
I think SHPA would be very receptive to that, honestly. We've just done it. The threat is that you don't use the overlay and then you can do whatever you want. And so they understand that protecting particularly the Broadway facade of buildings that they can't see the back of is a fair compromise to protect all the other ones that you are protecting.
All right, Grant, thank you. We do appreciate your work. We don't think you're slacking off. So we'll help you figure this out.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. And thank you for your time. Sorry for being so long-winded on this one. I know you got a big schedule today.
Reach out if you need help.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'll give proof at 5 p.m. Come by.
I look forward to it.
Randy and Peter are up next. I'm conflicted with this project. So Edmund, if you want to run the meeting, I think you're going to hear they've got their fair share of problems too. So I'll recuse myself during their presentation.
Sure thing. As many of you know, the fourth project on the Sunshine Mile is the bungalow block that was awarded to the Randy Dorman and Peter Anadrenistakis. And if you two could please give us an update on where you stand and maybe a glimpse into the future of what you have planned, that'd be great.
You got it. I'm going to, in order to share my screen, I just had to change my settings. So I'll just exit briefly and I'll be right back. Thank you.
While our project is complicated, Grant, I will give you, I think yours is maybe more. If there's a contest, ours is pretty complicated, but we see ways around our complications, I think, a lot more than perhaps you can right now.
Yeah,
I just sent you the request. Yeah, thank you.
As Randy and Peter get into it for the newer board members, as Corky knows, he was part of this. We moved those bungalows, those historic bungalows, back to the back part of the property, then moved them forward as they widened Broadway. And in doing so, that also demoed the water lines, electrical, et cetera. So they have a whole nother ballgame, different from Grant, but still a great challenge.
So Peter, I have the slideshow if you want me to post it or share it.
Sounds good. I'm trying to share now. Huna, is it showing?
It looks like it's trying. Yep.
So just let me know when you want to switch slides, Peter or Randy, and I can try to do that.
That sounds
Great,
great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you can follow along. We're going to provide an update related to the historic bungalow block and the adjacent parking lot to the west. We were asked to provide a 5-minute update, so we're going to keep our communication, our conversation quite tight. I suppose the third slide is what we've done since the last presentation to Rio Nuevo. We've brought temporary power to the site. We've repaired 6 of the 7 roofs. We've repaired and cleaned up the interiors. We've completed an ongoing weekly maintenance on the exterior and some of the interiors on an ongoing basis. We've developed architectural plans. Likely what we're going to go into some detailing you're most interested in is what we've submitted as far as the development plans to the city of Tucson. In addition, we've engaged Sonder Agency on the Tucson Gastronomy Collective branding. We've enhanced our website. And again, this is all since the last time we presented to Rio Nuevo. We've installed new signage at the site. We met with representatives from the State Historic Preservation Office regarding historic tax credits, and we have ongoing, and we do meet with neighborhood leadership. Randy is going to communicate the progress and submissions of our development plan. Randy?
Yeah, thank you. Peter and I work on this every day, but just a progression of the actual plans. We had a pre-application meeting in February, and that led to a Sunshine Mile District meeting in August. Then we had our official pre-application meeting in August with the city of Tucson. If you could, then the development plan was submitted for review. And so we're working with our civil engineers, our architects, landscape architects, created the development plan, submitted that in August, and got comments in September. And then during this time, we're also working with our prospective tenants to see what they need from a scale standpoint, what kind of construction is going to be required for our tenant improvement plan separate from the site plan. And after we got the comments from the city of Tucson on the development plan, we worked with our contractor, TCM Construction, and he developed some preliminary pricing for us based on the architecture and the development plan. And, as with many projects, we viewed it, we decided we needed to do some value engineering, and that's what we've been doing over the past month or so. And this is our site plan. So it's exciting. I mean, we have these 7 existing buildings. They're beautiful. They're from the 1920s and they're small. They average about 1,000 square feet. So what we're trying to do here is maximize outside use. Most of the ADA entrances, they're all from the back. The front entrances will be more ceremonial, but we really had to figure out how each space is going to work, how you can get from one to the next, lots of shade structures, covered structures. And with the lot that we have to the west, we can get 43 parking spots. And this is just a little rendering from behind the westmost bungalow that shows shade structures, outside seating, lots and lots of vegetation.
Thanks, Randy.
Sure.
So this doesn't happen without our trade partners. Of course, we want to thank Rio Nuevo, the entire board and their council, all of the work that Mark Collins did and all the work Tim Metcalf is doing. RAH Architects, who came not only very highly recommended, but worked diligently every day on this project. Rick Engineering, of course, is working hand in hand with RAH Architects. TCM Construction, we want to thank the executive board for recommending TCM Construction. They completed several other, at least one other very well-known Rio Nuevo project, and they have been an absolute blessing to this project, and of course, Sonder Agency. So things don't happen. And as Randy said, if Randy and I aren't talking about the project every day, we're talking to RAH Architects, we're talking to Rick, and talking to TCM Construction. So we are working on this project every single day.
The budget, so as Randy shared, the initial budget that we had and the initial budget that we got back and did some value engineering. Right now, we are at our current budget to complete not only the Tucson Gastronomy Collective, but the associated parking areas. The current budget is $5.5 million. Just for some narrative and context, I'll quickly go through some exterior pictures of what the site used to look like. This is some of the exteriors of what the site looked like. This is at the most west side, across from that west parking lot. And then now you're able to see some of the current exteriors with the landscaping that is enhanced, that is upkept. We deal with issues at the site every day or every second day, but we're currently dealing with those. Randy's going to talk about some of the branding. You've seen some signs go up at this particular site. Here are some of the interiors that we had dealt with, and we dealt with some deterioration, as you can see, of some of the original interiors of these beautiful buildings. And there was graffiti, water damage, things like that. We're very thankful to have the privilege of developing the site, but now you can see what they look like on the inside. And some of the executive team came over to take a look at some of the insides. We welcome anyone from Rio Nuevo to come over and take a look. They look really beautiful. And I think we got one more. So again, just a little peek into some of those. So the site is a very special site. It's curated operators, and we wanted to communicate that we do have signed LOIs, and every operator was curated and selected to exemplify why Tucson was designated by UNESCO as a city of gastronomy. We've been very particular on who we've been not only identifying, going after, and working with. We have LOIs on 6 of the 7 bungalows. Randy's going to go into detail as to who those folks are. And we have several groups vying for that final available bungalow, including meetings that are happening this week. We remain steadfast and dedicated to collaborate and elevate our city of Tucson and our city of gastronomy designation. Randy, can you just share a little bit about the bungalows, please?
Yeah, so this has been very exciting. As Peter said, highly curated. So we really wanted the right collection to represent all facets of why we're a city of gastronomy. So we're so excited because we contacted Don Guerra, said, we know your place is just a mile from us, but I feel like you need to be here. And he said, I'm actually working on a concept that I think would be perfect. So he's been doing a lot of pizza pop-ups, and he and his partner, Oren Molotovsky, are going to open Barrio Bagel and Slice in the eastmost bungalow. And, we're just thrilled about that. And then in bungalow 6, we have the local gin producers, Suncliff Gin, who are the loveliest guys, and they forage their botanicals locally and in Sedona. They're going to do a tasting room in bungalow 6. In bungalow 5, we have a lovely woman, Athena Padilla, and she's going to open the Sonoran Sunrise Cafe, which is going to be her take on Sonoran breakfasts and lunches. In bungalow 4, I love Fun so much, and I know you guys have been big supporters of the Chinese chorizo project. She is going to open a dumpling concept in bungalow 4, and we're thrilled to have her. On bungalow 3, if you could just go, you missed one slide. Oops.
Sorry, I hit it too fast. I have to reload it.
No worries. So bungalow 3, I'll just tell you, Tucson Foodie has been collaborating with us for quite a while now. And they're opening a market. And so they'll have lots of prepared, some prepared foods, but all the locally produced foods that you can't really access. You can get a little bit here and a little bit there. This will be a really curated collection. Shane is super excited. They're also going to use that spot to do a lot of their programming as well as on our site. So that's bungalow 3. And then bungalow 2, we have Talega Coffee, which right now is in the Brings building, and they're going to expand to the bungalows. And then, as Peter mentioned, for bungalow 1, we have 3 groups, all exciting, one particularly exciting that we can't say right now, but They're all looking at Bungalow 1 right now. And we, of course, have continued our collaboration with Tucson City of Gastronomy, Mission Gardens, worked closely with them on our edible landscaping, and the San Javier Co-op Farm. And then next, we worked with the Sonder agency on branding. And, you know, the branding is the public face of the project. So we spent a lot of time developing a creative brief, really understanding who we thought our market was. And Sonder developed our branding. So this is some of it. If you could go to the next slide. This was our whole development. Next slide. And this is kind of the centerpiece of the logo. And what's so lovely about it is that first, it represents the sun, Tucson, you know, so emblematic of Tucson. But at the same time, it's a table in the center where people gather around the delicious food that brings us together. And there's 7 seats around the table, which represent the 7 bungalows. So in a single icon, I think we managed to communicate quite a lot, which we love. And that's kind of how it looks on its own. And then there was a sign that was on the site. We had Jude Cook pick it up. And when we developed the branding, we actually said, whatever you do, we have to make sure that it works in conjunction with this sign. So ultimately, this sign will be back up on Broadway, restored, looking like it does on the right. And then we have launched our website. So it's kind of basic right now, but it has some great information on it. And if you could just click again and click again. And then we put signage up on the site. So on each end of the site, we have signage, let people know that something's coming, there's excitement. And also, since we had enough of the bungalows curated, we didn't want to get a ton of random requests. So now that we know who's there, we know who to fill in with. And so we have our lovely signage up. And then we also recently did an article for the Trend Report that updated what's going on at the bungalows. And again, it's a highly curated site. We want this to say to the world why Tucson is a city of gastronomy. We want this to be a singular place where people can go and experience why we're a city of gastronomy. And we had the idea from the beginning, and we have that same plan. So really, the plan is consistent with the one that we had when we were awarded this in 2023. So we're excited.
Randy, originally the 2 most westerly buildings were going to be kind of combined into one gastronomy center.
Yes.
And I didn't hear you describe it that way. Have you changed from that plan? And does that accelerate the project a little bit?
So we did change from that. Devin was going to do this very lovely but complicated restaurant concept using both of the westerly bungalows connected by a new kitchen in between. He was going to have a rotating chef, and that every few months that would change out and he would do a menu. But as you know, most of you know, he took a job at the Lodge at Ventana.
Right.
And as we were reviewing the project, we realized there are almost no other restaurateurs who could really do that. And it did create actually a lot of complications for us. So instead, we decided to keep the 2 separate, also gives us a lot more flexibility in the future. And we'll use we do still have our commercial kitchen with our demonstration kitchen for classes and events.
Now that's going to be kind of in the
space.
back of building, it would be building 1, is that correct?
Closer to the Rio Nuevo office, that's correct.
Yeah, so we have that kind of behind bungalows like 5, 6, 7. And so what we're going to do instead is have kind of monthly dinners with the same idea, but using the commercial kitchen and then just having the bungalows each be separate concepts themselves.
Now, you've
That's
gone
the
through
only major
this.
change.
Can you put any kind of a time frame on when things will actually occur and you might actually have an opening out there?
Well, we need building permits. As you know, we've done a significant amount of construction that's legal and authorized on the interiors and exteriors without building permits, but we need our building permits from the city of Tucson. So they're not holding us up. We're going back and forth, working with them, but we started that first process back in 2024 in February, and it's ongoing. So it's literally working with them every single week.
Well, what does that mean in terms of your expectation? And you've got clients, so you obviously are telling them when you think you can turn the space over to them. Can you share any of that?
Yeah, we're happy to submit exactly where we think we are at. We have some of the numbers that we shared with you. Ryan Rapucci from RH Architects thinks we're a few months away. But again, I don't want to speculate. We've got our foot on the gas pedal and we're working on this every single day, but we're happy to share with you and send a monthly report in as to where we think we're at. And when we know we have a date, we're happy to share that immediately.
Okay.
We certainly
Fair
just
enough.
wouldn't want to speculate and miss that targeted date.
So you
And-
could share that fairly quickly as terms of just us, because we're planning certain things and it helps us to
course.
know when things are going to happen.
Of course.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and just like for our next steps, we've been working with the civil engineers, our architects, landscape architects on the revisions to the plan. We have to have our Sunshine Mile District meeting, which we think will occur in around 2 to 4 months, and then resubmit the development plan after that. So those are our immediate next steps. And so it's a little hard to estimate how long each of those is going to take, but we can estimate that and let you know.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you. Great update. Any more questions for Randy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Corky. I just had a couple of questions. Randy and Peter, thanks so much for that presentation. It was really helpful. I had two comments. One is I don't know, and forgive me if I'm repeating stuff that you already know, but getting historic tax credits is quite tricky.
Yes.
It's particularly tricky if you've done work already. The National Park Service looks askance at projects coming in for tax credits that have already done construction, particularly on the interior. So I don't know where you are in that. I'm hoping that it's not an absolute integral part of your finance because, we were able to get tax credits on our work at the Tucson house because we started it way before we were under construction. We did not get tax credits on the Benedictine monastery because changes to the interior, and in particular, we went to them after we were under construction. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about what your expectation there, and honestly, SHPO is very, very helpful, but they don't make the decision. It comes out of the
Yeah.
National Park Service.
Sure.
Yeah, well, first, thank you, Corky, for all the work you did in saving the bungalows and having the opportunity for Tucson, and that doesn't get spoken enough about. So thank you for all that you did. I would say that what we did is be very, very, very careful what we touched, and we repaired roofs, we plugged up holes. We took down drywall we took down interiors that were falling. But we haven't moved any walls, we haven't changed any arches, we haven't removed any windows. And Randy, maybe you could comment a little bit. To the best of my knowledge, we haven't touched anything that the folks who came down from Phoenix from the Historic Preservation Office had any concerns about. We just the interiors look nice and neat and clean. Would you agree with that, Randy?
Yeah, that's Corky. That's specifically why we had Susan come down. And so she reviewed everything. She made sure we understood like what we could and couldn't do. We needed to clean up the interiors because we needed to show them to prospective tenants, but we didn't change anything that was architecturally significant. And we went through with her what she thought was architecturally significant, obviously understanding that she's not the final say, but getting guidance. And we also have a lot of photographic records of, what it was like when we first got it, what it is now. So she felt pretty comfortable, and we're going to re-engage them before we actually start any meaningful construction.
Okay, the second comment, well, first to comment on that, and I love Susan, but they were 100% supportive of everything we did at the Benedictine Monastery, and we still did not get the tax credit. So
Wow.
they're
Sorry.
quite,
Great
they're
to know.
quite, the Park Service and SHPO are quite different in the way they look at things. The second problem, I think, is, and I don't know if you've solved this yet, but there's a technical problem. If I'm not mistaken, 2 of the 7 bungalows are actually not contributing structures or weren't contributing structures to the National Register District for odd reasons in the past. And there's a part 1 to the tax credit at the historic tax credit application, which requires the determination of listing in the National Register. So that's an absolute repair that needs to happen before you even think about an application to the National Park Service.
So we asked Susan about that because we were concerned about that too. And I am just spacing on the name of the gentleman who was with her, but he checked and everything was fine now. Somehow that got fixed.
Somehow
Okay, I mean, I know all the buildings should have been listed, but Brooks Jeffrey did not list one of them because I had a fence around it, and the other one had some other issue. That was easily repairable, and I'm hoping that was already repaired.
Yeah,
I
we'll
remember
follow-
us,
Go ahead, Randy.
Peter, do you remember us getting that email where they're like, okay, we're all,
Yes. You know what? I'm going to follow up with that, Corky. Thank you for that
Because
reminder.
honestly, it's a fatal flaw for those buildings.
Well,
Yeah.
we
if it's not-
communicated that to them and the oddity of it all, because we found it to be very strange, and they communicated back that it had been corrected. So we're gonna
Okay, that's great
we're
news.
gonna
Great.
we're gonna trust but verify. Okay, so we're gonna go back and trust but verify, and I'll grab that information, and Randy will grab it as we forward ongoing communications to the board.
yeah,
Thank
but
you.
thank you for those.
Well, before you guys go, let me congratulate you on lining up your tenants, because the last time we talked, you didn't have any. You were working with the one chef that now is part of the Ventana. So that's quite a bit of progress. And I'm hoping that Solot kind of motivated people to move forward with thinking, because they saw that space disappear very rapidly.
Yes,
Well, we just
there's
want to
definitely
congratulate.
momentum.
Yeah, we want to congratulate them and thank you. And like, you got to make your own luck. And if you work hard every day on a project, you make your own luck. And we're very fortunate to have great operators here in Tucson who are doing some real innovative and wonderful things. And as you mentioned, with the one group that pulled out, it opened up another opportunity for someone. So one person had 2, and now 2 new people were able to step in, and that just continued to energize, and it continues to re-energize the site. And as Randy said, we can't share who, but we will share the name soon. We have at least a few parties vying for that last bungalow, so we'll do our best to make everyone proud and make Tucson proud on this.
All right. Well, just congratulations on what you did, Peter. That's
Thank you.
good.
Great work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah,
thank you
Randy,
for-
Peter, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Tim. Thank you, everyone.
And just one more thing real quick. I know Shariah and Richard, you might not have as much background information on this. So if there are any questions, definitely just contact us and we could kind of walk you through from the beginning easily.
All right, great job. You're just outside of 5 minutes, like barely. All right, I'm gonna hand it back to
Presentation was 7 minutes, but the question and
Yeah.
answer period is
just
different.
outside.
Thank
It
you,
was
for
so
that. Thank
close.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
They invited us all to go visit. We should, because you don't see that when you drive by. And I get, every time I go someplace, somebody says, "What's going on with the bungalow block?" So you might want to do some kind of open house or something. So Tom, I'm checking to see if you got on. I know you're having some login trouble. I don't know.
And
if you
Fletcher,
have-
you're right. Chris and I did do a tour with Peter, and it was phenomenal. So it does give you a sense of it, and seeing those pictures of what they walked into and having their creative huts around it was impressive to see the progress, but also the vision.
Yeah, Gabby's online. I think you might expect a call from her. I think there's some press interest, in those projects, particularly since they were relocated. So now see if we can connect with Tom Brown.
He was there. He was on. Yeah, he's on.
He's on, but I don't see him or hear him.
Well, he has himself muted right now, but he
Yeah, he's
should be
got-
hearing us.
He just texted me. He couldn't figure out the video, but he got a kind of a photo up there.
Says there's something on my laptop that I turned off, but I can't.
You might have to give Zoom permission to share your mouse, keyboard, and camera.
In the meantime, Tom, if you have audio, go ahead and just start an update, and you might be able to figure out your video or camera in the meantime. But there's a lot of new members on the board since we first met you, so you might just start with who you are and where you are and the history of this expansion. And then I know you've hit a lot of roadblocks recently, and maybe we can help you with some of that. So I don't know if you can do just a verbal update while you're trying to get your camera going.
Yeah, I can give you an update. Sorry about the whole video thing. I'm terrible with these things. So basically Empire, we opened that up in 2010 or 8, 2008. So
We agree with everything you say.
you guys probably know more about it than I do.
Yeah, you were one of the first people on the block. It's I think
we were almost shut down by that streetcar. That made things a little difficult, but in the long run, it certainly paid off. You guys have been integral to our success, so thank you very much in providing a downtown that's pro-business and flourishing, even though we hit some speed bumps. I feel like we've definitely come a long way, and you guys have a lot to do with that. So there goes my ass kissing. Where we are at on the project. So we haven't requested a draw in a while. However, we have made a ton of progress. As of right now, good thing you guys can't see me because I'm reading off my phone. So we've done the structural reinforcement of the collapsing roof and hydra, which some of you guys have seen and some of you hadn't, but that roof was coming down. That's all been completely repaired. The demo of hydra is completely done, as well as the demolition of the basement. We also did all of the structural engineering required in order to utilize the basement and for it to support the load of the patrons and whatever we choose to do above the basement. The basement's 4,500 square feet of wall-to-wall, clear span, open space. It's 12-foot ceilings and pretty incredible. I can share a video of this with you guys while I'm talking about what we've improved, if I can figure that out.
You should be authorized to share from our end.
Let's see. So if I want to share something.
There's actually a couple of you. Let me authorize the other one too.
Can I go for my downloads and just drop something into it?
No, you've got to share your laptop. You can email it to Huna.
Email it to me. My email's at the top of the chat, huna@azprosound.com. Or Tim, if you have his email.
Metcalf?
Yeah.
I don't have his email anymore.
Oh, well then mine's at the top.
Spam. No, I'm just kidding, Tim. Let me find it real quick. Share, let's see. I can share sound. How the hell do I share a video?
Oh, it's doing something.
Yeah? Hopefully
Yeah.
it's not more. All right.
We're getting close.
So we see your entire desktop. There you go. Now you've got some pictures.
Okay.
Something pop up because I don't see anything good. I've got like 30 monitors going on here. Oh, that's boring. That's our that's the new kitchen, which is If anyone's been in Empire not too long ago, this would be facing south. That little box right there would be where the beverage cooler is at. So the patio would be beyond that ladder to the right. So this is all running parallel to the central wall that goes all the way through the Hydra building, which is the wall behind the bar in Empire. That is a very boring thing to share. So let me find my video of.
You might win the most number of icons on your desktop.
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. I just hope nothing pops up that you shouldn't see. I mean, you know,
Yeah, we're seeing the
top
video now.
secret stuff. I'm not gonna let you guys hear my voice on this because it sounds kind of weird. Let's see here.
Wow.
Maybe you
That's
guys.
that's the basement at Hydra.
Yeah, and so that thing, it has steel beams going all the way across. So there's only 3 load-bearing posts, which are right there. Let's see if I can expand this thing. This is actually, this corner right here is underneath the sidewalk outside of the building, which is fun. And this is the wall
That's grown a bit in size.
directly below. So this is directly below Hydra. That's the staircase.
And you're saying those ceilings are 12 feet high down there?
Yes. Well, they're between 11 and 12, you know, with the sprinkler system. We of course would leave ceilings exposed. I know we're not talking about the basement right now, but I'm just putting this on because it's a little bit lengthy a video, but it gives you guys an idea of some of the progress. This video is also over 2 months old.
That place is haunted, Tom.
It could have been haunted if the ceiling came down and killed us, considering it was held up with electrical wire and
So
drywall.
that's the former retail store now you're in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So let's see, where am I taking you? That's not me talking. That's a robot. All right. Stop.
That's funny. That's the
And that
door.
goes into Empire. That's a temporary door, obviously. We're gonna go with something a little less classy. That's the new prep kitchen, which is 100% complete now and operational. We are about to pour concrete in order to fill in the spot for the walk-in coolers. So all refrigeration will be above ground, so we won't be dealing with any kegs going down into the basement, which we're lucky we haven't had any liability because of that.
Have you guys been paying rent this whole time?
Yeah, I've paid over $600,000 to secure that basement over the past 10 years or so.
But you're renting the space while you're doing the remodel?
Yeah, I've been renting the space since Margot moved out. So
And
I
who owns that? Who's your landlord?
Sam Steinberg.
Out of New York, right? Is that the New York?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, he's out of New York. I've offered to buy it from him pretty much anytime I see him. We offered him, I think Dave said we offered him $5 or $6 million for it last year, and he refused, which is way beyond what it's worth. But we're putting a ton of money into it. Hopefully, there will be some goodwill in the end. We do, like I said, we do have the first right of refusal, which is you know, I guess helpful after you put a couple $1 million into a building. So we have done the electrical upgrade to 3-phase 600 amp, which is service enough for all the future expansion. We've done all the plumbing, water main upgrade, multiple tankless water heaters are throughout. I already told you we've done all the structural engineering for the future projects. Connection of the hydro basement to the Empire basement has been, the stairs have been built, the wall's been demoed. It's all masonry. And the new prep kitchen, it's 100% complete. The renovation connection and connection of the old Empire prep kitchen is about 70% complete because it goes over the former stairwell to access the basement that was through Empire, which was just beyond the customer bathrooms. So we're at a point now where since our last draw, we've put in an additional $220,000 to $260,000 of our own money. Obviously that doesn't include rent, but that's not really part of this.
Tom, if you could unshare your screen, I'll help you and set the tone a little bit, because Fletcher asked the same question I asked this morning, which is you have carrying costs. I mean, you're spending money besides construction. You've got rent, etc. You've got a lack of opportunity cost for the retail portion of your business to actually make some money. You got to unshare the whole thing, at the very bottom. Unshare. So Fletcher and board, we talked about something this morning on the phone. Tom and I, it's kind of a 3-phase project. They're in the midst of the big part, which is the internal part of the expansion into Hydra. Phase 2, which they've run into some historical challenges, is with the exterior of the property. It's an old retail store with kind of the frontage display windows, which it sounds like Tom's going to need some of our help and expertise, probably Corky getting involved in that as well. And phase 3 is really that basement, which they haven't approached with us yet, which is a space they can activate. If you think about the batch basement and some of the bar concepts, they can do the same thing. It's really nice space. You just saw in the video, it just needs to be modernized. But phase 1's finishing, but phase 2 is kind of, that the exterior obviously contributes to the rollout of that.
We've completed all construction to the point of that we can, without knowing what we're going to be permitted to do with the facade improvement.
Where does that stand now? What's the latest communication from the city?
So there was, in my opinion, there was a little bit of misunderstanding when I first presented to you, Fletcher, with Mark Irvin and Chris Sheaf. When we first presented to the Empire project to you guys, I brought some renderings along with me. Those renderings made it on your website. Those renderings were then seen by Historic Review Board and presumed to be what our plan was going forward, which would have been, I guess, optics there. They thought maybe we just superseded even paying them a visit. Those were obviously just renderings. Mark told me, bring something for the guys to see. So I had our architect draw up some elevations, and that's obviously not even something we want to do. But after that, we kind of got a warning about not touching the facade and what we were allowed to improve. We hired A23 design architects, and they're incredible. They've come up with some renderings. I do believe I have a couple of them in here watching. Those are the other 2 Slim Shadys. If they're still here, is my name there twice again?
Yeah, I think we're just connected through your account, Tom.
Ah, there he is. How are you?
Good.
Are you able to share?
I should be able to. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Andrew Christopher with A23 Studios, one of the architects. We also have Grace Scow online here, another architect at the firm. So we've been working with Tom and the Empire crew, just to kind of explore some options and do some background research into the historical challenges and constraints here. So
You should be,
Have you submitted this new architecture to the city?
we have not. We had some initial discussions, very high level discussions with Jody a while back. Obviously, you know, we don't know who the new HPO is going to be at this point. But once we do know in the next, hopefully, month or so, we'll definitely engage them as well. Okay.
They have interim people. There's no reason to wait for them. We can help you with the city.
Okay. I tried to
Here, let me
share, but I
can
don't
share the
think
first
it's
step.
working.
Let's see here. Since I've become proficient at this. No, I lost the screen. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
that.
here we go. I got it, I think.
Oh man.
Can you all see it?
there we go.
Ah, there you go.
All right, yeah, that's is this the first set?
Yeah, this is the first set. So we did a lot of iteration of this and kind of distilled it into 4 main options. But you know, none of these are 100% the solution, certainly, but just trying to get your guys' temperature on things you like about it, comments, suggestions, any of that. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the building. It's technically the same building that Empire's in now. There's just a party wall between them. And it's had a lot of lives over the years, the longest one being Dave Bloom's department store, which is what most of the architecture is left from. It's in a international style. So this was a take at preserving a lot of that international style. So we've kept the layout of the storefront up here, the overhang. We do know that there's some clerestory windows in here from when it was a Art Deco building prior to that. So we looked at possibly opening that up and getting some more daylight into the space. And then another challenge we're looking at too is that the current Empire portion is kind of the shotgun suite next to it, but it is part of the same building structurally. So, you know, how do we integrate that if we do integrate it at all, you know, architecturally, since now it's going to be integrated from a functional standpoint, being one business. So this is a corner view looking northwest.
So you're
Oh, go ahead.
the current Empire, but the current Empire is like gray, has a sign, has like a portico, has a thing, a metal thing up top that's kind of like an Empire State Building looking design. So historical has nothing to say about that, but they're just kind of basically denying what you want to do for the rest of the building.
Do you have the output sheet there, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I think
that they gave us of what was pre-approved.
Do you want to look at that first, or we can run through these real quick and then
run through these.
Okay.
And you didn't submit these, right? You just had a discussion about it.
Yeah, we just had a discussion. So I'll run through these quick. This is the Congress side. So just flip through them. And then this is the 6th side. So there's a couple other tenants in this building.
There's one other.
Yeah, the jewelry store over there. So
Tom, are you having to compromise what you want to do over these historical issues? Because
none of these are what I wanted to do. From the start of this, when I spoke with you guys, you know, I felt the consensus was something iconic. And, you know, I think this is probably one of the best, if not the best corners downtown. I really would love to be able to see the synergy going on inside from the outside, which would require a lot of glass. But when Andrew pulls up what we were kind of notified as to our pre-approved improvement options. It was basically buy 20 gallons of paint and a paintbrush and some shoe polish and call it a day. So this was kind of some stuff that A23 came up with that I think is all greatly designed. It's not everything I would want, but I also am totally willing to compromise. I want something that everybody wants, that Tucson wants. I can barely dress myself, so I'm just looking for something that is appealing and will draw people in because it's really about the revenue that we want to produce.
Well, I personally don't have a lot of, experience dealing with this, but it's concerning that good businesses are being steered away from their marketing on historical issues, because the reality is that most of these buildings were built as cheaply as possible during the time when people were doing things that way, and not all that many years ago. This isn't 100 years old. So I'm just speaking
The
from
original was great. The Art Deco, in my opinion, pardon my French, is shit.
Yeah, we went through that. I had a project downtown that had originally was brick. It had been stuccoed over, and we started working on it, and they wanted us to preserve the stucco. And I said, well, which version of history do you want? The original building. The original building was brick. So it might be interesting to see what it actually looked like originally. And maybe that's a case you make, is that, you're restoring it to its original.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but wasn't it implied that we can't even go there?
So yeah, we did a ton of background research on this. So we have fairly good photo documentation of all the different iterations of this building. What we had discussed with Jody was that we are kind of defaulting to the nomination form and the registration form, which list the period of significance for the building as the international style, which it's mostly currently at. But I think, we have a lot of confidence in the research we've done and all the different styles in the building, that we can do something sensitive that speaks to that, that isn't just throwing a coat of paint on it, essentially.
Let's get a meeting set up. We'll help you get a meeting. We'll go with
Yeah.
you. We'll try and get the city to see some urgency here. I'll get to work on that as soon as this call's over.
The
Okay, I
more that
appreciate
you
that.
can open up what you're doing interior to the street benefits everybody.
Agreed.
That's how we feel too. A lot of our focus has been on that corner because that's the critical component of this.
Critical component, and we want
Yeah.
a lot of activity, and we certainly don't want to hide it behind a coat of paint.
They do have a lot of issues with windows. I've gone through that downtown personally, and they seem to really focus on converting something to glass.
Yeah.
I'm not against any, I love historic. I have historical properties in Armory Park and, but there's certain things that are just kind of a little overstep on the boundaries. This
let us help you there, Tom. We'll get a meeting going, and we'll get you and your
we
architects.
certainly don't want to ruffle any feathers. We're just trying to
Well,
really
let me ruffle the feathers, and
Thanks, man.
you be the nice guy.
Let us help you so we can eat some pizza. That's what we're trying to do here on the
We
corner.
still can eat pizza. We can still eat pizza. That's open. I mean,
Yeah.
the sales have been great too. I mean, our projections that I brought to you guys originally, Fletcher, Chris. I mean,
Girls got a job at this hotel. They can
we're rolling. It's
I'm absolutely amazed. I mean, when we've gone in there, and I've stopped in and had a bite just on my own without saying anything to anybody, and it amazes me how successful you guys are given how limited you are. It's the same thing with Rocco's. You used to go into Rocco's before.
Wonderful.
And, and you could hardly get in there, and it was
right.
like you were afraid to sit down because you weren't sure, what you were running into. And he moves to his new place, and he's just exploded. And I'll bet you that'll happen with you. So
I intend to be hitting, 5, 6, 7 million. We're already close to
Now, look
to
what you're doing down there, and the city has got a real interest, and I think thoughtful people can see that of getting you open and making this a really nice corner that everybody can almost feel from both inside and outside.
That's
So,
what I would love to see, and that's all we're really, really
all right.
trying to do. And we have the right firm working on it. They've been a great team, really receptive, very cool-headed compared to me.
Well, I'm
Um,
speaking, for myself, and I want you to ask, this is just me speaking, I can't talk for the board, but I think you should ask for what you need to be successful, and let's see if we can help you get there. And if we have to make an adjustment or two, but I don't think we need to completely kowtow to one person's or two persons' opinion about what it used to look like in whatever year they decided is important for them. They don't see.
It does have to have a historical basis. We can't
Yeah.
just go remodel.
I'm
the
100%. I agree
Yes.
with both of you, and I think there's a compromise. I think the compromise is much further away though from the options that we were given, unfortunately.
All right, well, Jody's gone. Let's get a meeting going. We'll help you try and accelerate this. You're losing revenue. We're losing tax revenue. City's losing tax revenue. So
I
I'm
mean,
just
just the
trying.
amount of money I put into rent, just in this time period is a lot. But I mean, over the course of the 10, 12 years, I mean, it's 600 plus $1,000
Wow.
on
Yes.
unusable space, just this space because of the vision we saw. And the ideas for the basement, I think you guys are really gonna like, and I can't wait to
But
get started on
what
that.
we've done with other basements is let's get you activated, get
Right.
the main floor going, and then we come back phase two.
Well,
and
yeah, let's
talk
get it
about-
activated, give you guys credit, the press conference, and then let's roll out phase two, because that's the one that's gonna print money.
All right,
The
cool. I'll
top
get going on a meeting.
this
Tom,
month.
thank you for the update. We'll reach out as soon as
I can
we
have this done in less than, I can have this done completely in 10 months or less if we can get past this point.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nate, looks like you're saved the best for last. We did a quick update with you last meeting. It was kind of on the fly. You got to drop your screen time. There you go. So you didn't have the benefit of any pictures or renderings or slides. So welcome back. Are you running your own presentation?
I'm running it, I think.
Yep.
All right, there you go.
So
Remind our court reporter who you are.
yeah, I am Nathan Aries, owner of Aries Collective Restaurants. I'm excited. Oh,
I was just saying hi, Nate.
hi. Really excited to be here. My partners, I'm partners in this project with Derek Polder and Kay Watanabe, and we're really excited to come to Broadway and have this opportunity. As you can see, it's kind of the same story that you've heard from the past couple of presentations. The renderings that we are doing now are much different than what I originally envisioned. If I could go back 8 months ago, I would have if I knew historic really wanted just the building to be the building and nothing else, I would have, presented this much differently back then. You can see from the original renderings where Good Bread is. That was an actual open whole indoor outdoor patio to the entrances of the building. And so we enclosed it, kept I went back in time and found some old photos of what the building used to look like before all the facades were put on it, and we brought it back to its original look of when it was a photo store. And really, even with the changes, I'm really happy, excited. It's not, I thought that we wanted to I went too far on the renderings. I was really trying to bring the wow and wow Rio Nuevo and wow the area, and I probably went too far by opening up a bunch of walls and indoor, outdoor, exterior patios, and but as you can see, my favorite thing actually got to we got to keep my favorite thing, which is the middle entrance and the big welcome sign that says welcome, and underneath, you can't see it from here. Underneath it says Sunshine Village. It's a little homage to the Sunshine Mile. So we'll get into the rest of the location. If Huna, if you could press the next slide. Here you can see the layout of the building. What I'm planning on doing is I want to activate the backside of the building. I know that sounds weird, but we want people to enter our building off of Broadway and come through our entrance, a beautiful welcome sign entrance, drive to a beautiful parking lot, and have all the entrances of the businesses technically from the south side of the building. So once they enter our you know location, we don't want them to have to walk all the way around like they had to do in the past with other with the prior tenants. So we are going to have all the entrances facing the parking lot south of the building. And so that was the main thing when I saw these buildings. I said, I want to keep people in our area, get them excited about entering our space, and not want them to, have to take a trip all the way around to get to the front of the building. Now, the front of the building will still be activated with patio seating. So when you're driving by on Broadway, you'll see people out there enjoying cocktails, food, and you'll see the neon lights and everything up there and the big welcome sign. Our vision is having a cobblestone entrance of the street entering in between our buildings. Yeah, so this is the kind of an overview shot of showing you Broadway entering our building down to our parking lot in the back. We're lucky enough to have significant parking in the back, which we're really excited about.
Nate, can I ask you a question while you're on that screen?
Yes, sir.
So I love your welcome sign entrance down the middle there, but to your west, there's the John Wesley Miller building. There's kind of a breezeway road in between. Are you planning on activating that? Will cars drive that? Will that be a sidewalk? Is there an easement in place? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so nothing's technically ours, fairly buttoned up to our building. But we are doing we're planning on, if we can get the okay, we would like to do like a little like mural for a photo opportunity. But we also want to make sure that our new neighbors are happy with what we're doing. We're definitely going to light it. Really cute lighting back there, so it's just not a dark, dim breezeway. But there's really no entrance for us there. The main entrance will be right in between our two main buildings.
I gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. If you could scroll down to the next slide there. This is just some elevations of what the building used to look like and how we brought it down to its mid-century modern look. I found a old historical photo of a photo center. So we really ran we wanted the building to look exactly like that. You guys saw on a couple of my prior pitch decks, it was not just what historic used to look like. We really went over the top trying to make something pop on the front of Broadway. But I love the simplicity of what we're going to do. We're really going to kind of focus on activating the front by patio seating and awnings and things of that sort, and landscaping. But you can see at the very bottom photo how we chopped all the kind of just the facade off of it and brought it back to its natural look. What another big highlight we're doing is if you see, there's a demolition, number 4 demolition of the building west east facade. What we're going to do is that was actually a whole open faced indoor outdoor patio. Um, Historic didn't like that. So what I've done is I added 4 huge windows. It doesn't look that big on here, but it covers the whole stretch of the building. And those are going to be open in like big collapsible windows that allows us to add greenery and really have a nice breezeway into the location. I don't know if someone's
Tom Whopper, you need to mute. There we go.
all right. Yeah, so we're going to add those big collapsible windows. So if it's beautiful outside, we can at least still get that feel what we wanted to have it feel like. You scroll down just another one here. Actually skip that. That's the whole signage thing. If you can see here is we're pretty much ready to go. We're built out. Equipment, we're finalizing MEP, so mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We're really pushing on that. But if you see on this, this is the main building. This is the larger building to the east. And I wanted to focus on this building because this is going to be Strive New Social. To the very far right is going to be 5 vintage looking bowling lanes. And then you see the big wall there. We'll have a huge cutout in between at the north side of the building, a huge cutout so you can enter and exit the bowling lanes, but then windows cut in between the brick wall in between the 2 buildings. So you can still see the bowling alley, see the action, but not get all the noise of it. To the far actually far west of the building is the kitchen, and then right below that are the golf simulators. We wanted the golf simulators and the private dining room and the bar all kind of in one area so we could really focus on events, make it a happening spot while people are playing golf or doing whatever they want to do. They can even rent it out to watch the Super Bowl. It's the simulators we got are amazing. And they let the guests do many things.
This is Chris Sheaf, and
Nope.
I was hoping that.
And then no, you're fine. Another thing on here too that you can't really see, but a lot of these tables are really cool foosball, like they're foosball tables. So when you're sitting there enjoying dinner with your kids or friends, you can play foosball, and then when your meal comes, you can push the handles in, and they go away, and you can eat on top of the table. So it's going to be a really fun, active location, lots happening. The best example for me to kind of put out there is almost imagine a culinary dropout. Instead of the bags in the patio, we have a bowling alley, a vintage bowling alley. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And you've seen places that do the golf simulators just go through the roof right now. Trevor's in Phoenix. Everyone's kind of jumping on this, but we're really excited to kind of be the first in town to really do something of this type of caliber. Scroll down one more here. Actually, this is kind of gives you some elevations of the building on the front and the back. I kind of went over through that in detail. If you go down one more slide, actually. This gives you a whole kind of view from the front of everything. The front right now, for historic purposes, it doesn't show all the awnings and the activation we're going to do in the front. What I learned was less is more with them. We got all that cleared. And one thing I feel to mention is we're through historic. It was all approved, all good. And we're actually going to the city meeting on Thursday, the neighborhood meeting on Thursday. So really, once we get the plumbing and electrical done, we're right to the city. We're ready to start going. So we're moving along really fast now that we've had the hurdles of historic. But at the end of the day, I understand what they were trying to say, and I love bringing it back to its original facade, and really excited to add more to the front once we get the plan stamped. I figured I would go, you know, I would cross that bridge after we got everything okayed, because I didn't want to draw on historic any longer. So I'm going to go back to them after we start everything and say, hey, I'd like to add these awnings. Really, you know, who did a really good job was Larson Baker with activating the front of their building with mid-century modern post and awnings. And that's exactly what we would like to do. Not mimic exactly what they did, but in that sense of, you know, really making the front pop. Can you scroll down just one more, show the back?
Great job getting past historic.
Yeah, I wish I could rewind time and save the 8 months, but you know, for next time, I know what they're looking for now. I won't go too far. But you can see back here, we've added a lot of mid-century modern stack brick. The patio, it doesn't look mid-century modern on this on here, but the designers are meant to, you know, make it more mid-century modern with colors and pops. Really love the entrance with the welcome sign and the big windows on the side of the building. Really just super excited to you know, get the dirt moving here real soon. We've been very eager, as y'all know. I typically send out a weekly update, and it's really moving along now. And I know my partners Kay and Derek are really excited as well.
I'm letting my dogs bark at the mailman or whoever they're barking at. And any questions for Nate?
No, I just want to applaud you, Nate. This is Tanya. You know, I think it takes a unique group of people coming together that really want to do these very difficult and very challenging projects, and then your willingness as a group to recalibrate and say, look, we get it. And then, as you said, Nate, next project you'll have more efficiencies, but it looks amazing. I think the group of us that were able to go, Edmund, Fletcher, Chris, and I, seeing us evolve. So just kudos to you and your team.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we're super excited. We're excited to be in the neighborhood. You know, we want to activate Broadway in the city of Tucson, and you know, we're just eager to introduce this.
If you get through the neighborhood meeting, which is really perfunctory, you just have to hold it. You're not really asking for permission. That gives you what, about 3/4 of a year to actually be opening?
Yeah, well, we still have a little bit of MEP, nothing too much. Some bowling alley schematic stuff I didn't think of based off of the electrical coming in and changing out some electrical outside. But yeah, once we get that in, as long as city can move along, well, I mean, I would love to target this year.
Okay. I mean, that's what you were talking about, but it was dependent on historical when we were talking, and you've gotten through that. Now, I love your concept of let's get what we can get, move forward, and then go back and use precedent, particularly on Solot block, to add to what you really want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that way you keep the whole ship moving.
Yeah, I didn't want to delay any longer. I just know that we could go back and, you know, and get what we wanted, but I want to get stamps done, and I want to get construction going. Because one, I feel bad for our neighbors. You know, a building with no dirt moving and just fences up does nothing to activate their businesses, and I'm really excited to have my neighbors excited to activate this corner.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations, Nate. That's a lot of progress.
Thank you so much.
Nate. Good luck. Let us know if we need to do any help. Looks like you're doing.
No, I just I appreciate the opportunity, and always I just appreciate this opportunity.
Super
Thank
exciting project.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for today. It was really valuable. I think we don't typically do this. We like approve a project and off you go. And you know, sometimes we try to help when something goes awry, but this is really helpful to me. I think the rest of the board's very appreciative. A couple more updates we'll schedule for next month. We will have some action items coming up in February. from the mall all the way to the downtown. So we look forward to that. I think I had one comment from Corky via email on future agenda items. If you have anything, just email it to me. Thank you for hanging in there. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move, Tanya.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good job, everybody. See you next 2
Thank you
weeks.
very much.
Take
Thanks.
care.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.